So I wanted to get my thoughts on the current state of IDW Sonic and the fact that the main comic's going to be taking a hiatus for a couple of months to basically make room for the Fang the Sniper miniseries and then get back on track afterwards, I assume. Now, if I'm going to nitpick a little bit on the comic and the differences between it and Archie, the one main difference that I think Archie Sonic, had over IDW, or has over IDW, is the fact that they never had to interrupt, the main, well, actually, let me correct myself. They did kind of have to interrupt a little bit, not much, but just a tiny bit of the main story for a miniseries. But the difference is they would tie it in somehow. Like with the Sonic Genesis 4-parter, they tied that into what was going on outside of that. The both Mega Man Sonic crossovers, they tied that into what was going on, in the comic, in the main story of the comic. So they always found a way to tie certain things in. The other thing as well is that if they had to interrupt the main comic or any of its spin-offs, with something totally different, they would have in the little colored boxes on the upper right, upper left, bottom right corners, they would say, in those, little little annotations, if you will, that it would be another time, another place. Or even right at the start, in one page, they would say it's another time, another place. But again, like I said, they would never, truly interrupt the book for so long and then say, okay, after this, we're going to basically resume where we left off. We're going to resume where we left off. That was never the case. That was never the case. And if they had to, they would actually create a different book, primarily for that miniseries that they were going to do. Sally is a good example. Tails is another good example, and Knuckles, when he started, was a good example. And even, things like the Death Egg Saga, when that first got introduced, got its own miniseries and such. So they never really had to, interrupt the main book with the exception of a few occasions here and there. They never had to do that. Here with IDW, they're doing that. And what that tells me is, obviously, the book's selling well. The book is selling well for IDW, but it definitely tells me that they are kind of falling behind, in my opinion. They're kind of falling behind on story, on the story aspect. They still need more time to really fine tune the story and go, and get it to go in the direction they want to go in, as well as they still need time to really get the artwork up and running as well. But when you have this report coming out, that we're going to interrupt the main comic and focus on the Fang the Sniper book, and then we're going to resume. Again, even though it's nice that you're going to be focusing on a character like Fang the Sniper, aka Knack the Weasel, giving him some shine and spotlight to help tie into the Superstars game that's come out, still, it's not a good look, especially when you've had delays in the past, even if those delays were by a couple of weeks, a month. That's not a good look. And when you take that into consideration with what's going on at IDW, behind the scenes and the reports coming out of that, it's not a good sign. Now, like I said, the comic's selling well, so that's not an issue, but still, that gets people wondering and talking and being curious as to what the future will hold, for the comic later on. Now, with that being the case, though, apparently after the Fang the Sniper, aka Knack the Weasel miniseries, they're going to, as I mentioned, resume the main book, and the main story for that book is the Restoration arc. Now, the restoration arc basically ties in with the new Diamond Cutters subplot and everything, and the duo the member duo being Mimic in disguise, and then you got Surge and Kit infiltrating as well on behalf of the corrupt business mogul Clutch and everything, who basically sees the restoration as, as competition to his business is very similar. The only difference with his business is he makes money off it. He takes parts from a lot of Eggman's previous plans and everything, or contraptions, and uses them to help rebuild things, but at a price, a very steep price. Well, Restoration HQ is more like, hey, we're doing this for free to help people out. So, we see what's going on in this story arc, and we see Clutch making a deal with Jewel. And the question is, what is the future for Restoration HQ? And a lot of people feel like, Ian Flynn or Evan Stanley, because it feels like it's Evan Stanley writing this, will surprise us and basically cause Clutch to take over Restoration HQ and, kind of run our heroes, and our allies out of there. And that's probably true. That's probably true that Evan Stanley might do that. But then again, this is, Sonic the Hedgehog. This is Sonic the Hedgehog. We got to remember that. And if there's one thing Sega has made clear, is that you cannot make Sonic look inferior even to comic exclusive villains, if you will, or antagonists. You can't make him look inferior, him or his friends. So what I think is going to happen is, I don't think Restoration HQ is going to fall into the clutches of Clutch, if you will. I don't think it's going to get destroyed. I think it's going to be fine, because because let's be honest, as I've talked about before, you don't have to read, the issues of IDW or even Archie if you've been a fan as long as myself and many others have, to kind of see what's going on or what's going to happen. And the way it's being played out, it's almost like the heroes know something's up or have a clue of what's going on, but they're just waiting for, Clutch, Surge, Kit, Duo, or all of them to basically drop their guard, basically get so cocky that they think, oh, nothing's going to stop us and everything. And then that's when, they find out that, oh, the heroes were onto them the entire time, and they drive them out. Now, there is a good chance that the wild card here could be Surge Eteric. Basically Surge. She could be the wild card. And the reason she could be the wild card and all that is because you have Amy basically telling her, hey, you don't have to listen to anybody else. You can make up your own mind. You can make up your own decisions. And that's got Surge thinking, kind of considering, hey, I've never really thought about that. No one's ever. Basically, she's realizing that no one's ever, had the opportunity to tell her that, and it's gotten her thinking, like, that might be something I should consider now, because, I am my own person, even though I'm a clone of Sonic. I am technically my own person. Maybe I should start making my own decisions. So I look at that, and then I look on top of the fact that, she was just added to the Sonic Forces battle, being the third IDW character to be added to the game alongside Tangle and Whisper. So I look at the timing of that. I look at the timing of the arrival in the comic, her and Kit, trying to be part of the Diamond Cutters, be part of Restoration HQ, even complimenting how massive and great this that place is. So I look at the timing there, and I'm thinking, yeah, I don't think Surge is going to be totally on board with Clutch at the end. I think what's going to happen is she's going to probably, I've got a feeling what's going to happen, maybe it's just me, and maybe I'm wrong, but I've got a feeling we're going to get a moment where someone shows Surge kindness. Maybe it's a young kid or something like that, and that gets Surge thinking, you know what? Do I really want to take this away from them and put it in the hands of somebody that's going to drive them out? Or do I want to keep it safe and free for those to, to come in and, have a future, have a place to go? So it's going to be interesting to see what happens and everything. But again, I look at the timing of her being added into the mobile game, Sonic Forces Battle, I look at, her being added. I see, I see that timing. I see that moment she has with Amy, and it just tells me that she's going to play a very integral part in this. And I think she's going to be one of the reasons that Restoration HQ remains as it is. Because again, you got to remember, this is Sonic the Hedgehog we're talking about. We're talking about a clone of him, a female clone, and everything. We're talking about Sega characters, and like Amy and like Amy and such, and it's like you don't want them to be made fools of. You don't want to be made fools of, and I think in the end, pretty much it's going to get revealed that they were in on the whole thing the entire time, or at least they knew something was up the entire time. They just played dumb, if you will. They just played dumb. And I could see that moment where it looks like the bad guys have everything. They think they have everything in hand, at least Clutch does, only to find out that, yeah, the heroes were onto him the entire time. The heroes were onto him the entire time, and it's going to cause him to go into retreat. I think that's what's going to happen. But I also think what it'll serve as a lesson for the newer characters like Lanolin and Jewel, like, hey, we put you in these positions, we made you part of this team, but you guys still have a lot to learn. Like Lanolin, I think what's going to happen with her is she's going to rely more on Whisper and Tangle mostly Whisper to train her and teach her well, or teach her better. Like, hey, I want to be part of this team, but I want you to help me. I want you to teach me how to detect, who's a friend and who's a foe, and stuff like that. So I could see that happening. I could see Jewel asking Amy to stay behind once again to fully train her so she can also understand the differences between, people that mean well and people that don't. So I could see a lot of that happening too. But again, we'll have to see what they have. We'll have to see what they have in store going forward. But yeah, I think honestly, being a longtime fan of the comics, both overall Archie and a little and enjoying IDW here and there, I feel that basically, Sega's not going to allow anything to happen to Restoration HQ. I could be wrong, but I don't think they will, because again, they don't like the heroes being made fools of by lesser heroes. It's like Eggman's the exception, but lesser heroes, yeah, that's not going to fly and all that. So I could see them pretty much, because again, when you look at the issues, when people review them, it just gives off the vibe that they know something's up. They know and feel like something's up, and that by adding Kit and Surge into the equation, basically Clutch has pretty much played his hand too soon, and that's going to be his downfall. Mostly if Surge is going to turn against him, and kind of help the heroes, keep Restoration HQ, because maybe she gets shown a bit of kindness or something. We'll see. And she takes what Amy said into to heart. As well, again, I look at the timing of her being added into the mobile game. It's like, yeah, I think things will be okay. I think the only reason they're taking this break too, like I said, is to not only give Fang, Knack, a little bit of spotlight to tie in with superstars, but also gives them time to really to really like finalize, how that's going to come to be, when they get to that part of the story, as well as also finalize the artwork. But also I feel like it's kind of a sign, it's kind of a sign that, some fans are going to take and look at and be like, yeah, even though they're focusing on Fang here, them delaying the main book instead of making Fang its own book, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. So, but hey, that's their decision. If they want to do that instead of getting Fan, Knack, his own story, that's up to them. But let me know what your thoughts are on what you think is going to happen in Restoration HQ. What do you think about the timing, of Surge being added into the games, along with her and Kid debuting here in the comics and everything. Oh, not debuting, but returning here in the comics as a possible, members of the Diamond Cutters. What are your thoughts there? Do you think the heroes are onto what's going on and they're just waiting for, Clutch to play his hand and then, pounce on him and say like, hey, You know, you thought you got us, but we got you. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on that? And do you think maybe IDW should have considered giving Knack, Fang, if you will, his own separate miniseries comic instead of just interrupting the main one? Because interrupting the main one, usually in the eyes of some is not a good sign. But let me know what your thoughts are. Let me know down below in the comments as well as the live chat during the premiere. Like the video. And until next time, I am out.